Welcome to Ride the Tide Collective, the podcast. My name is Julia Toothacre, and I am a career coach and strategist with over 11 years of experience in career development. I work with ambitious corporate mid-career professionals to help them take control of their career trajectory. Yes, we are taking control in 2023. This is a career-focused podcast where I share my knowledge, tips, and expertise with you so you can be successful in your career journey, whatever success looks like for you. This is a bonus episode where I'm going to talk through your career goals for 2023 and set some actions for success. If you haven't thought about your career goals or you don't really have anything specific to focus on, that's okay. I'm going to be sharing 3 goals or actions that every professional should do in their career each year. Before we really dive into all the actions and the structure and all of that, I want to make sure that you understand that career goals are personal and unique. There is so much noise out there around have this goal, do this thing. If you don't do this, you're not going to be successful. And it really creates a lot of tension and anxiety. And I don't know about you, but it makes me question, am I doing the right things? Am I focusing on the right things? And the reality is a goal that worked for one person might not work for somebody else. We are all very, very unique. We have different backgrounds. We have different experiences. We have different obligations in our life. There is so much about us that is unique that even from a career perspective, when we're trying to figure out what is that next thing, when we're trying to control what the next thing looks like, we're trying to control the trajectory, it can get really overwhelming when there's too much noise and too many voices. So I am going to give you some specific goals that have specific actions, but these are really things that honestly, I think you should just be doing anyway. Okay. And regardless of where you're at in your career and what you want it to be, these are going to be helpful for you. Okay. One other thing I want to share, and I feel like everybody's probably getting sick of talking about this, but I think with regard to career, it's something that we have to be really conscious of. And that is the fact that the last number of years, so we're at the beginning of 2023 right now, but the last number of years have been extremely complex and complicated for so many professionals. And we have all collectively gone through similar things, right? We've gone through COVID together. We're going through inflation in some parts of the world, not all parts. But there are all of these things that we are collectively going through together. But then there's also our individual things that we're going through. And what has happened to us in the last couple of years at an extremely high rate is we have changed the way that we think about our life. The way that we operate has been impacted in so many ways, right? And again, this looks different for everyone. It's going to look different for me because I have a tiny human. It might look different for you if you don't have kids or if you have other things that impact the choices that you make and, your kind of standard operating procedures for life, right? And I think we don't take enough time to think about the impact of that and then how that has trickled down into other areas of our life, right? And career tends to be one of the areas that for a lot of people becomes an afterthought, right? And it's not an afterthought if you get laid off or if you're in a toxic situation, then it's very much front of mind. But I would say for the average person, your career becomes an afterthought because in a lot of ways, we're just trying to survive day to day. And surviving looks different. Again, everybody's unique, but we're surviving financially, physically, mentally, emotionally. There are so many things that are impacting what is going on with us. We have to really take that into consideration. So I know that I'm giving you, a little bit more in the clouds and all of that, but I really want to share this. This has been something that I've been thinking about for a while. And yeah, I want to talk about goals and all of that, but The context that you create goals, I think, is so, so important. And so really taking a step back to really look at your life and what has changed so dramatically in the last couple of years for you. And maybe not much has. It's very possible that not a lot has changed, and that's great. I think that's wonderful. But I think for the majority of people, our way of life has been impacted, and we need to honor that, and we need to think about that, okay? Let's talk about energy levels, okay? When we are going into goal setting, doesn't matter if it's a predetermined goal like I'm giving you, or you have your own goals that you want to articulate and figure out. You have to think about your energy, okay? So realistically, are you ready to take some kind of action in your career this season? Do you have the time? Do you have the capacity? Are you motivated enough to do it? Right? Energy is an area that I think we forget to really evaluate. We get caught up in, I need a new job. I need to do this. I need to do that. And we forget about whether or not we have the energy to actually see it through. Okay. And part of the reason that I'm sharing this is because the energy that it takes to go through a full-blown job search is completely different than if you were in a season of managing your career, or really just being kind of even with your career, right? Like no highs, no lows. You're there, you're showing up, you're doing what you need to do, but you're not really going much beyond that. I think really thinking about what season are you in? What season are you coming into, right? Because if you're in a season of, look, I am just trying to survive here. I don't need more career goals. Maybe you're listening to this because you think you have to, because you think, I'm going to listen to Julia and magically I'm going to have all the energy to create the career goals. I'm telling you, honor yourself, like really honor the energy that you're bringing to the table right now and your capacity right now, and be honest with what you have the ability to do, right? If you're going to go through a full-blown job search or an internal who am I season, that takes a lot of energy and a lot of dedication to do something like that, versus maybe you're going to show up low energy, right? So maybe you're going to show up and you're going to post to LinkedIn twice a week. And then you're going to spend another 45 minutes sometime during the week engaging with people and interacting and having conversations and things like that. That's a very low energy task that, regardless of where you're at in your career, can be very helpful, right? Even if you're managing your career, if you want to do something else and all that, engagement on LinkedIn, posting on LinkedIn, that really just helps with your credibility and your visibility, right? So really figure out what that energy management looks like for you, and where are you realistically, like be really honest with yourself about where you're at, okay? And I want to make sure that you ask yourself, I alluded to this earlier, are you in a season where you just need to focus on career management? You just need to show up to the job and focus on the job and your day to day, right? And get that really honed in and feel really good about that. Or are you wanting to make the big change? And one thing I will say is, if you are going through a big life event, I love talking about life events. I don't really love it, but it's something we have to acknowledge, right? If you are going through a big life event, do not try to make big changes in your career unless you absolutely have to. If it's necessary for your survival, then absolutely go through and make those changes. But if you're going through something big in your life, don't add more to what's going on in your career, right? Like show up, do what you need to do, but don't overdo it. And I know my high achievers, because I know I have a lot listening, I know that is hard for you to understand. It's hard for me to understand, honestly. But I also went through a season where I had to deal with the death of parents and the birth of a child and all of that. And I showed up. I showed up to my job. I did the things that were required of me, that were needed of me. And that was it. I didn't give it any more energy. I didn't let it take me out, because I had so much other stuff going on that I was just really good at my job during that season, but I really didn't have the capacity to go above and beyond, which I would normally do because that's kind of the normal state of how I would work, right? So really think about that as we're talking about energy and we're talking about time and all of that. You want to make sure that you are being true to yourself. And I'm going to say something that's probably going to ruffle some feathers. Sometimes a job is just a job, right? Sometimes a job is just a job, and we show up and we do the job and we get paid and we go home. And if you're in that season, great. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't always have to be going for the next thing, right? Sometimes it's just about showing up. It's just about showing up. Okay. Now, if you have some career goals that you want to execute on, great. I am here for that. Articulate them, write them out. Don't do too many. I would say maybe 3, max 3 for the year. So really think about the year, maybe one thing a quarter that you want to focus on, something like that. Do not overdo it. If you're not quite sure what that looks like, message me on LinkedIn. Let's have a little bit of a dialogue, because I want to make sure that you're not overwhelming yourself and that your career goals are really clear and it's going to be manageable for you, right? So if you have that, if you know what you're going to do, then do it, execute on it. What do you need to be successful? How long is it going to take? Like, really think about all those pieces within goal setting, okay? I'm not going to go in depth to all of that, because I think if you are already setting your own goals, you know what you want to accomplish, you're going to know how to execute on that, okay? What I want to do is talk about the actions and the goals that I have outlined for you. I actually have a resource. It's called the Career Goal Tracker. And this is 3 actions/goals. They're kind of one and the same in how I worded them, that you can take that's going to help you move your career forward in some way. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a job search, right? For me, personal growth and professional growth is just as good as finding a new job, right? You have to figure out what that looks like for you. But these goals are really just going to help you focus in on some activities and some actions that are going to help you regardless of where you are at. So we are going to be talking about learning or mastering one skill for the whole year. I'm going to want you to meet with 4 people who can help you advance your career. And I'm going to want you to apply to 2 jobs. Okay. Now, some of you are like, I do not want to do all of that. Why are you making me do that? It sounds like you want me to get a new job. What the heck, Julia? That's not what you just said. Okay, look, I'm going to go into each of these. Okay, we're going to talk about each one, and we're going to talk about what you really need to do and what you need to focus on and my intention behind them. Because if you take it at face value, then yes, it looks like I just want you to get a new job, right? But that is not my intention. My intention is for you to continue to grow, to learn, and to be honest with yourself about where you're at in your career, okay? So let's jump in. We're going to go through all 3 of these goals in a little bit more depth. So first, we're going to talk about learn or master one skill. Chances are you have an idea already of the skills that you need to be successful in your current position or in whatever the next position looks like. If you don't know that, this is a really great conversation to have with a direct supervisor or somebody in your life who knows you well and can give you some really good feedback about where they think you should put your time. I like the supervisor piece because I think that it shows your engagement with yourself and your willingness to be vulnerable and to say, hey, I want to grow and I want to know what you think I need to grow in, okay? If you don't want to go that route, if you want to bypass the manager, think about what your next possible and logical step would be in your career, whether that's in your current organization or maybe something else within your field somewhere else. Think about what that job would be, the job title, the job type, and then look it up and look at the skills that it's asking for. Look at a couple different job descriptions, look at the skills and look and see what you already have and what you could utilize. Maybe you need some type of certification, or maybe you just need to hone in on a skill set that you already have, or explore a certain part of a skill set that you have, right? Remember, this is for the year. This is not for January. This is for the entire year. So don't feel like you have to even start anything in January. I just want you to figure out what the skill is, right? And then find a time to execute on that. And in some cases, if it's something directly related to your job, you might be able to get your organization to fund that for you. So that's another really great conversation to have. All right. Okay. Next, meet with 4 people who can help you advance in your career. I know a lot of you cringed on that. You're like, Julie, I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to reach out to people. I don't have a network. I don't know what to do. Okay. This is the whole point. Okay. So first, I want you to think about who your champions are in your career. And if you have to dig deep and go back into, maybe a program that you were in, like a school program, grad program, undergrad program, dig deep, right? Find people who have been supportive of you at different points in your career. And then I want you to look at that person and see if they are somebody that could potentially have good connections for you within your given field or industry. If they do, you are going to meet with them. You are going to talk to them. My PDF gives you a lot more details and information and things like that you can look at. So you definitely want to look at that. But I want you to be really intentional. And I only have 4 people on here. That means once a quarter, once every 3 months, I want you to talk to somebody. And part of the reason for this is not only for you to stay in touch with your network, right? But what I see happen time and time again is something will happen in your career, and all of the sudden you're like, I got to get out. I got to get out of this. I don't want to be in this position anymore. I need to get out. And what do you hear from career coaches? Oh, you need a network. Use your network. Use your network. If you have not talked to that network in years, which I am sure most of you have not spoken to your network in years, then you're going to come to them and you're going to be rushed and you're going to be frantic and you're going to put that energy onto them, and they're not going to want it. Okay. They're not going to like feeling that from you, right? That desperation. That is not you showing up confidently. That is not you controlling the situation, right? You want to control the situation. You want to have conversations that are intentional, that build authentic relationships with people. So I'm not saying that you call these people up and you just talk about what you want to do. Find out what's going on with them, right? This is a conversation. It's a dialogue. You're catching up. Hey, how's it been going? What's going on in your current position? If you know their family, how's the family? What's all of that? Have a conversation. It's not about reviewing a resume. It's not about, do you have connections for me? It's just about reviving a relationship and keeping up to date. And you know what? It's perfectly acceptable to say, you know what? One of my goals this year is to actually stay connected with my network. And you were somebody that I identified as someone that I really want to be in community with and in connection with throughout my career. And that's part of why I'm reaching out to you. Do you know how good I would feel if somebody said that to me? That's amazing. That's an amazing feeling. So utilize that and reach out to 4 people, because when the time comes that you do want to change careers, they are going to be warm leads that can help find something for you, connect you with the right people, and they're not going to feel used by that. Okay. And then finally, apply to 2 jobs. Now, I know y'all are sitting there like, Julia, you said that we don't have to apply to 2 jobs, or we don't have to apply to jobs if that's not what we want to do. That is very true. You don't actually have to apply to 2 jobs. What I want you to do is find jobs that are going to be your potential next step, right? Ideally, it's going to be outside your organization, but that doesn't mean you have to leave your organization. Why are we doing this? Because you need to understand the expectations within the market. This is going to be really important for those who have been in their position for a long time, or they've been in the same organization for a long time, even if you've moved positions and functions and all of that. You have to understand what is out there. What does the market want in your field and you want to stay on top of that. I am not saying that you need to spend hours job searching. It's really not about that. 2 jobs, one in the first half of the year, one in the second half of the year, and just do a quick search. Plan an hour one day to do a quick search, go down a rabbit hole for a little bit and find some positions, read up on a couple different positions to see what's needed. If you find something that makes you go, oh, I really want to do this. This is amazing. Something that excites you, then you think about actually applying for it. But you don't have to. It's the act of seeing what is out there and staying on top of things. And here's the other benefit to that. Not a lot of states, but there are a handful of states now that are requiring salary information to be put on their posts. So when you see positions like that list the salary, it also gives you an idea of where you fall in the market as well. Now, that's not foolproof because there are a lot of factors that go into salaries in terms of location, the type of organization, the industry, the size. I mean, there's so much, but it still allows you to have a potential dialogue. I'm not going into the details of that in this episode. I do have some salary negotiation episodes that you can listen to, but for the purposes of this, it is really for you to see what is out there and be on top of whatever the market is asking for in your given field. Okay. So, couple of things. I'm going to put a link in the blog post for this episode that is going to have the career goal tracker. So it outlines everything that I just talked about and it's on one page. And I did that because I wanted you to be able to print it out if you're a little more tactile, pen and paper, but you can also fill it in, keep it on your desktop. It's a fillable PDF as well, but it'll help you track and it'll give you a lot more information to make sure that you find out in each of these steps. So definitely download that, check it out for yourself. And then here's the other thing I'm going to ask. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very open to getting connections from people that I don't know because I think we can all share networks. And I want you to message me and let me know what your goals are for the year. I'm so interested to know what people are doing and what they want. That actually helps me as I'm working with clients and as I'm developing content for social media and for the podcast. I want to know, what are you doing? What do you want to do? What's important to you right now? So do not hesitate to send me a message on LinkedIn. I always love to have that dialogue. Thank you so much for sticking with me on this episode. I know sometimes goal setting can be really intimidating, but I hope that this process takes some of that away because the goals are outlined for you. You just have to fill them out and execute on them. If you want a little bit more support around that, you can also check out my coaching options, and I will leave a link for that in the blog post as well. But you can also go to ridethetidecollective.com/coaching, and you can see all of the different options that I have available there. Again, I'm so excited for this year. I think some great things are going to happen regardless of what happens in the world. You still have control over what is going on in your career and in your life to an extent. And I hope that this episode was just one more step to help you feel like you're in control of your career.